Yeah, there really is something wrong with my phone. I'm not sure what it is. Yeah, so I mean, I said to her, I said, Dean, this guy who harassed me in my Chinese class, somebody needs to talk to him. Somebody really does, because he really did harass me, and he even stalked me when I was working. I mean, I think he had been at the language lab, I don't know, a couple weeks ago for a test that he had to take, but then he chose to sit right behind me and cough over and over again. And I looked back and I saw him just like grinning at me, and then he got even closer to me. Yeah, I mean, he really did harass me. He really did, and I think maybe a few of his friends did also. And I said this is not a good situation. Although it doesn't seem to me that he was inherently dangerous, that he himself would do something to me. I think that chronic disrespect is really a problem. It's very dehumanizing, and the denial of it happening is also very dehumanizing and also a problem. And it sets the stage for worse things to happen to people. And we talked about it for a while. I'm sure that she knows about, the situation outside of school. I know that she does. I mean, I can't imagine that she doesn't. I think a lot of people do. But we talked about it for a while. We talked about how do you know if someone is coughing you on purpose. And I said to her, I understand that this is a very difficult thing to quantify, because the people who are acting this way are not specifically saying things. They're not walking up to me to say something like, you smell, you smell, you smell, you smell, which I don't. I have perfectly normal hygiene. I really do. But this is a way for people to dehumanize other people and to bully them. It really is. And we did talk about it. And the thing is, Sue, she is someone whom I know can understand the things that I'm saying, and that is something of a change, actually, because I've been in the situations that I've been in over the past 3 years. I've really been having to kind of just work my way into better situations. Being homeless is not a good situation, and the people who can understand what I'm telling them and care about it, there really are not that many of them in that environment. Eventually I was able to get through to the director of the Pine Street Inn about that employee who harassed me for 8 months, but it was only after he had been able to harass and stalk so many other homeless women that they also started to report him, and then he finally got fired, right? But she didn't want to believe me. She did not want to believe me at first. There were staff who were lying to her too, at the Pine Street Inn. It took a really long time, and finally other women started to say something, and finally that guy was not able to abuse his job at the Pine Street Inn to harass and stalk homeless women, many of whom had already been abused in their lives many times by many all sorts of people, from childhood through their adulthood. So that was really a bad situation, and for me to not be believed in that situation for as long as I was not only dangerous to me, it was dangerous to other people also. But I think the dean seemed to be someone who was able to understand what I was saying, and also I think is used to kind of a higher level of people being able to function anyway. And so she was I think able to understand better the things that I was telling her and believe the things that I was telling her, because I think it's not to say something bad about homeless people, because most of them, the people who are chronically homeless, have never had the opportunities that people who are not chronically homeless have had. And the people who are able to work their way out of homelessness usually do it because they already have the skills to do it. They already know how to work. They already know how to be in school. They already know. It's really sad. It's really sad that there is not an investment in really helping people to gain the skills that they really need, the social skills, the professional skills. It's a very daunting task to give them those skills, but there's almost no effort made that way. They just cycle through system after system after system, from the homeless shelter to the psychiatric unit to the jail, and over and over and over and over again, to maybe a bad living situation for a while and back again. I mean, there is absolutely no difference between anybody who ends up in one of those places and anybody else anywhere in the world. Where you're born, how you're raised, the things that you have access to, that's what makes their lives the way that they are versus the lives of other people. And most of the time they're not treated that way, but that's true. But I think, unfortunately, when you are in that group of people and one of that group of people, it can take a lot more time for someone to believe you. And whereas, and in this situation too, I think it was difficult too, because I mean, I think initially the dean thought of me as being someone who, had of course, having been homeless, maybe wasn't, able to deal with college life, and maybe wasn't able to deal with it socially. And that's initially how she was thinking of me when I first met her. And after interacting with her for a while, I think she understood, she understood that was not, that the way that I was being portrayed to her was really not true. Yeah. So, she agreed to try to find out who that guy was. There were a few other things we talked about that made me feel like she understands, she's glad it's over, like I'm glad it's over. And hopefully, I'll be able to get through school, because my only goal is a productive goal. I want to get through this program. I already have a college degree. I already have an associate's degree from Community College of Vermont. I got that like 10 years ago. I transferred a bunch of my credits from the 4-year school that I had gone to, but I hadn't finished up the 4-year school, but I still had decent credits from there, from a few years before. I transferred them into Community College of Vermont, did a few more classes, and I got just kind of a general degree in humanities. And this associate's degree that I'm trying to get is something that I want so that I can work, and be able to work my way through another school to get my bachelor's degree. That's the goal of this, right? The goal of this is to be able to get my degree so I can support myself financially. That's the goal of this. So I was willing to do quite a, really what I needed to do to be able to do that. If they had really pressed these charges, I think I probably would have had to walk out. I knew it wasn't true. The resolution that we got to, I thought was, what could be done considering what had happened and what's been happening. I think it's you have to work with what's there. That's all you can ever do in life, is work with what's there, depending on what your goals are.